what we do is we use all the planetary energies to try and grow, to try and evolve as a person. Moonology is really a small part of astrology, and it's really studying the astrology of the moon. So we look just at the moon and the sun and how they interact with each other. And the sun doesn't really come into it, but it's the light of the sun that causes the 8 phases of the moon. But we're really studying the 8 phases of the moon, how to work with them through all the 12 signs of the zodiac, how to work with them through the 12 astrological houses on your chart, and just how to use the phases, especially the new moon and the full moon. Once you start to do self-examination and meditation and forgiveness, and once you start to see that you can set intentions which actually manifest, that you can actually consciously create in your life, it does become often, for many people, a spiritual experience. But you don't have to start from there. My favourite cycle is the waxing cycle, because it's the cycle where you just go for it and do stuff. But I was writing about it the other day on my website, and I actually was like, I don't really know what my favourite is, because then the waning cycle is really good as well, because that's when you can kind of take time out and release and let things fall away. So, I love the new moon because it's the restart and it's the time to set your intentions and make wishes and make your commitments to yourself. And so that's great because it feels really proactive and you feel like you're really getting somewhere. But I also like the full moon, because that's when everything sort of comes into this big emotional crescendo and there's this sort of explosion, and then you're kind of like, So I actually like both. People respond especially to the full moon in a similar way, which is that our emotions start to rise to the surface. And in astrology, the moon is actually about feelings and it's about emotions. So as the moon grows bigger and swells on the way to the full moon, the emotions swell. And then we get the full moon, which is when we get all the emotions coming up. But that's why also, you read all this anecdotal evidence about, more people in the emergency rooms, people going crazy, the nurses all go, oh no, it's a full moon, we're going to be really busy. And I think that's because, as an astrologer and a moonologer, for me, it's because all our emotions come up at the time of the full moon. We know that. It's kind of sort of proven to an extent, I think. But we're not taught how to deal with them. Okay, so nobody sort of says, okay, so at full moon, we're going to all start to feel our feelings much more, and that's a really good time to process our feelings and deal with them. It can be a good time to maybe do some extra meditation. If you do tapping, if you know about tapping, there's all this tapping, or you could do NET, or you could do more yoga, or you could go for a walk along the beach or the park or whatever. We're never taught that as children. So my mission in some ways is to get people to learn that they have to process their emotions at the time of the full moon in order to detox every month. It's a chance to detox every month. And then the new moon is sort of 2 weeks later is when we start to make our intentions. It's all just one big cycle. I went from being a person who just was freelance writing around the world with a backpack, travelling the world, going around Asia and Thailand and London and America and anywhere else I felt like, to wishing under the Eiffel Tower to fall in love, to meeting my husband and getting married and having our son. So, that was the biggest change. So I went to Paris in 2004 and I arrived on the night of the new moon. And so I put my bags in the flat where I was staying and I thought, well, it's the new moon. Where better to make new moon wishes than the Eiffel Tower? So I took a taxi to the Eiffel Tower, and I remember on the way I asked the taxi driver, I said, I'm going to the Eiffel Tower to make some new moon wishes. And I said, what do you wish for? And he said, oh, madame, I wish for love. And I was like, excellent. And then I asked someone else on the way, who I spoke to, and I said, I'm doing this. Well, what would you wish for? And they said, oh, I wish for love. I thought, wow, everybody's wishing for love in the city of love. So I went under the Eiffel Tower's back. It was all open back in those days. I just went and I stood underneath it and I just wished for love, and I sent it up, through the spire of the Eiffel Tower, which I thought is going to make a good conductor of my wishes. And I started doing that every month, and then not that much later, a few months later, I met my husband. And I'd been single for a while. You have to try to kind of embrace whatever's happening. And with the moon, just say you see it's going to be squaring your Pluto. Think, okay, well, maybe I've got some issues coming up, with plutonic things like maybe anger or whatever. You try and use them to better yourself. The first thing to do is to start to become aware of when the new moon and the full moon is. The full moon is easier, obviously, because you can see it in the skies. And, you can come to my website or 100 other websites and it will say when the full moon is. It's one day, once a month. And, just be aware it doesn't always take place at night. It can be full moon at 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. or whatever. But what you want to do is you want to start to get in tune with the full moon, okay? And do some forgiveness work. If that's all you do, or surrender. Surrender and forgiveness are the two big things for the full moon. So forgive anyone who's done anything to you bad in the last month or ever. Forgive yourself for anything you think you didn't do properly. And then just surrender your life. Surrender everything to the divine. Surrender yourself to the divine. You are divine, but surrender to the divine. And then 2 weeks later, you'll get the new moon. And again, you can look at my website, any website, astrology website will tell you when the new moon is. And that's when you do your intentions. And you set your intentions, and you make your commitments, you write things down. So if you just do that, those two things, it's like 40 minutes a month, it will change your life. I feel like it's my life purpose, because what's happened to me is working with thousands and thousands of people over the years, and in my own life, I see how it works. And I feel like most of us, if not all of us maybe, have this ability to consciously create our life to an extent. And really working with the moon was something that women did hundreds and hundreds of years ago, for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, maybe thousands of years, and we stopped because, in a nutshell, the patriarchy started burning us and hanging us and drowning us. So the information that in the past would have gone from mother to daughter to mother to daughter to mother to daughter just was squelched out. And now it's coming back. And it's, for me, Moonology is so much more popular now in 2019 than, say, when I was doing this 10 years ago or 20 years ago. The reason why, everyone's into the moon all of a sudden is because it's a way for women to reclaim their power. And we're in a cycle, you might not think it when you look, but it's a long cycle, and we're at the start of a new cycle for women. That's what I think. If I can get people processing their feelings at the full moon and setting their intentions at the new moon, that's my dream.